We can talk all day about getting enough sleep, eating healthily, studying X number of hours a day, using study techniques like active recall and the Feynman technique, but these are all long-term study strategy. But none of these come close to how powerful some of the techniques that I'm going to discuss in this video come to directly boosting your grades in the short term. Because that's what you need, short-term solutions. What if you have an assignment that's due in the next few hours, or you have an exam tomorrow morning? Then you need something that will help you boost your grades within the next few hours. And there are a few very simple ways to almost immediately improve your grades, and it surprises me how seldom these study techniques are utilized. It's not necessarily about studying harder, you need to study incredibly smart too. And in this video, I'm going to go through a few ways you can significantly boost your grades in just a few hours, but I go into more detail and give you step-by-step coaching to level up your studying and your grades in the Transform Your Grades in 30 Days course. You can check it out and find more information on it by clicking on the link in the description. Understand the grading system. Now, understanding the grading system or marking criteria that your teacher or lecturer has given you is one of the most powerful and time-efficient things you can do to significantly boost your grades. You see, the person marking your assignment or exam wants you to hit specific targets, and so it's your job to make it easy for them to award you the marks by hitting those targets. I wish I had known this at high school, because it wasn't until I studied at university that I realized how imperative it was to use the marking criteria that the lecturer gave us. They were so important that when I was writing an assignment, I'd have the marking criteria printed out and I'd be referring to it every 20 or 30 minutes or so to make sure that every single thing that I wrote was directly addressing a part of the marking criteria. I'd also aim for the top grade boundary and make sure 100% that I'd hit every single point in the highest grade boundary, and I wouldn't stop writing until I had achieved it. So this is an example of a very basic marking criteria. I'm sure you've seen them before. And this one grades the students on how well they state a position, support hypothesis, organization, and overall impression. And then it goes on to show exactly how to hit those criteria. So there really is no excuse to not be aiming for the very top grades, because the marking criteria shows you exactly what you need to achieve to get there. Practice writing answers. Once you have your grading system from your teacher or lecturer, it's equally important to practice writing answers that hit those grading expectations. After I started using the marking criteria to write assignments and to answer exam questions, my grades improved significantly, and it didn't take any more work. It didn't take up any more time or require any more effort. It was just a way of studying smarter and more efficiently, because I learned how to write in a style that clearly showed the examiner that I understood the topic and I was writing answers exactly how he or she wanted me to. And going through past papers and answering past paper questions is also a massive time saver. It's an example of the Pareto principle, where roughly 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So 80% of your final grade will be as a result of 20% of your studying. And the time when you're practicing exam past papers is the 20% of your studying that will make up 80% of your grade. And I made a video relatively recently on the 6-step system I use for every exam that I took, and using past papers was the last step, but also the most important step of the system. It's a really important video, and judging from the views it got in the comments, you guys seem to love it. You can click on the pop-out banner above to watch it. Utilize office hours. If you're struggling with your studying and you have literally just a few hours before your deadline, then you need to consider visiting your lecturer during office hours. So office hours, if you're unfamiliar with the term, because different universities call it different things, is the time during the day when a teacher or lecturer is available to meet with students in his or her office. So talking directly with your teacher or professor and asking them specifically the most effective ways of approaching your studying for your course can be hugely beneficial. And some lecturers, they might even tell you or even give you hints on which questions or which topics are more likely to come up in the exam. And utilizing office hours can also make sure that you're on the right track when it comes to writing assignments. There's nothing worse than putting in hours and hours of work into an assignment only to get your grade back and realize that you've answered the assignment question completely wrong. Use your network. So this video is about how to boost your grades almost immediately, or at least within 24 hours. And this step takes a little while to set up, but once you have set it up, it can be a lifesaver. I talk quite a lot on this channel about building up a strong network around you. So if we consider the 33% rule, which states that 33% of the people in your social network should be what you might consider below you, where you can help pull them up, 33% of people in your network should be on the same level as you, and 33% of the people in your network should be people above you. So in this context, this would be the people getting better grades than you. Networking is an incredibly important part of school, and particularly university, but also life in general. But you won't hear much about the importance of networking in your university classes because networking, it just doesn't really fit into the syllabus of chemistry class or a biology class or a microeconomics class. And networking will help you form relationships with people where you can help them get them where they want to go, but also they can help you. And in situations where you have a deadline approaching fast and you're just not going to be able to make it, asking for advice or support from your network can be invaluable. Learn to study with urgency. So studying with urgency is something that takes a lot of practice, and it's particularly difficult when there are no deadlines to put pressure on you to study. But sometimes studying for 45 minutes is just as effective, if not more effective, than studying for 3 hours. The length of time that you study is not that important, it's the material that you cover and how much information you're able to process and retain that really matters. So when we're in class, we have a teacher that is watching over us to make sure that we continue to study. Or in the workplace, we usually have a manager to keep us on track. But what about when you're in your bedroom studying alone, or in the library or the coffee shop studying alone? There are two things that you need to manage. And the first thing is that you do actually study and you're not getting distracted with other stuff. And the second thing that you need to monitor is the speed at which you're studying. You see, studying with urgency is something that is quite difficult to regulate. If your performance slows down at work, your supervisor or manager will put pressure on you to speed up. But when you're studying by yourself, it's up to you to make sure that you're studying at a decent pace. But the more you practice to study fast, the easier it will become. And you can use things like setting a timer to see how many words you can write before the timer runs out, or set goals like you need to get X number of tasks done within 30 minutes. It's all about compacting as much memory retention into a short space of time. In fact, I recently made a video on how I study smarter, not harder. You can click on the pop-out banner above to watch it. Always keep improving. Now, if you do find yourself in a situation where you have a deadline approaching fast, maybe you have an assignment due in the next few hours or an exam in the next few hours, and you're really not prepared, then after the deadline has passed, after the exam or the assignment has passed, it's so incredibly important that you understand why you struggle to hit the deadline. And you need to be 100% honest with yourself. And once you know the reason or reasons, you then put in place concrete steps so that it doesn't happen again. So maybe you forgot about your assignment deadline. So then to make sure it doesn't happen again, you might put all your future assignment deadlines on your phone calendar with a reminder for each one. Or maybe you prioritize your studying and socializing over your studies, in which case you make sure that doesn't happen again. Because your educational journey shouldn't be stressful. If you organize your time well, if you study hard, if you live a healthy life, then your studying shouldn't be a stressful experience. Studying for my degree was one of the best periods of my life. It was so fun, it was so rewarding, and for the first time in my life, I was able to manage and control my self-discipline. So even when I wanted to procrastinate, I ignored that feeling and I studied anyway. And the more I did that, the easier it became. And I made a video on it recently, 13 ways to be more self-disciplined as a student. You can click on the card on the screen where I go through exactly how I managed to become far more self-disciplined as a student and fight off the constant feeling of wanting to procrastinate. So I'll see you over there on that video.